Welcome to the world of probiotic foods. This is Cultured Food Life with your host, Donna Schwenk.
Hi, everybody. I'm Donna, and I am thrilled to be here today talking to you about one of my favorite cultured foods, and that is cultured vegetables. And they are powerhouse foods, and I think that you will be surprised how many things they can do. Now, this is just 7 of them, and I probably need to do a whole other show because I got more than that. But I am crazy for these vegetables. They are my secret weapon, and they really help keep me well in so many ways. And I think of all the cultured foods I make, these are some of the most beautiful because of the way that they look sitting on my counter. People always come in and say, "Wow, what is that you're got on your counter fermenting?" And I love cultured veggies the ways they look while they're fermenting. And they have these vibrant colors and textures, and I think they're delicious and they give me loads of energy. Plus, they're jam-packed with healthy bacteria. And making cultured vegetables is super easy, guys. It's as easy as submerging vegetables underwater and adding a culture, and then adding some salt, some seasonings, and letting them do their thing on your counter, putting a lid on it. And they make this special bacteria, this lactic acid bacteria, which changes the environment that the vegetables are in. It increases the vitamin C and floods the vegetables with good bacteria that can even remove pesticides and harmful chemicals in the vegetables themselves. And if you can learn to make these, you can change your whole life. I always add a little culture package to mine. I've been doing that for a long time. You can also make these vegetables with salt. And they won't be as strong as if it would if you were to add a culture package. And I found that myself because I always found the ones that I used with the added culture package always were stronger and lasted longer because the beneficial bacteria lasted longer because they had food inside of them, inside these packages that helped them to survive. I had a lady that came to my class one time, and she said that she tested the ones that she'd made with salt, and then she tested one of the culture packages, and the ones that she had made with just salt had the bacteria was gone, or the ones in the with the culture package were stayed strong. And I just want you to make them. I don't care how you do it. You can do it with kefir whey. Kefir whey is another way to do it, but you're going to add some other bacteria into it because kefir whey has multiple bacteria in it that are not normally consistent with culture vegetables, but it's still good. You'll get a little bit different taste from it, but I still think it's wonderful. So however you make them, you don't have to buy a culture package. You can do it with salt or you can do it with kefir whey. Either way is good. I like the culture package the best, but any way that you do it, I just want you to make them because I want you to make them and get well. So I have 3 different methods. Pick the one that's easiest for you. You just need a jar and some vegetables, guys, and a little bit of salt, and you're on your way. And it doesn't take much, but boy, can they change your life. So find the way that suits you best. And I've got all those ways on my website at culturedfoodlife.com. Come over there, find a recipe that sounds intriguing to you. Make a jar, stick them in your fridge, and they'll last you 9 months. And billions of probiotics in there that are vegetables that are perfectly preserved in there. You're gonna need them one of these days. Trust me. So listen to the rest of this show so you can figure out why this is so important for you. Cultured vegetables are so potent that all you need is like one little spoonful and you get billions and billions of probiotics. And these microbes work like an army, killing pathogens and keeping your gut healthy and in balance. And one of the most powerful guys in there is Lactobacillus plantarum. That's the special bacteria that's naturally occurring in cultured vegetables. It makes it anytime you submerge vegetables underwater, it's going to make this bacteria. And it's very, very cool how it works. This special bacteria is able to overpower many bad bacteria by taking the nutrients they need to survive. And this weakens that harmful bacteria and prevents them from attaching to the mucosal lining of your intestines. And so then you don't have those pathogens because basically they've been starved out and they die off. And they have special powers that go way beyond regular vegetables. I really love them. I mean, guys, I have so many jars in my refrigerators. I have refrigerators because I'm constantly trying new recipes to try to help you to find something that you'll like. And I reach for them all the time in special needs. Like right before I came to do this podcast, I went and had a few spoonfuls of cultured vegetables because they give me vitamin C that helps my adrenals and helps my immune system. Plus, I just kind of like them. And so I do that. They are food like medicine that works for me by strengthening, giving me energy. And so I always have a bunch of jars in my fridge. I just made a new recipe that I think I put on my website a few weeks ago called buffalo kraut. And boy, is that good. I had one lady say her husband's addicted to it now. It's just cabbage and some special seasonings in it and salsas. And boy, is it good. And I've got like a Spanish kimchi and I've got blueberry kraut. I mean, I got so many different recipes and I love them all. I mean, every time I make one, I think, okay, this is my favorite, but then that doesn't last very long because then I'm on to making a new one. But I encourage you to make a jar, just one jar, because you guys, if you don't have a jar in your fridge, you can't get the benefits. And I love this because these vegetables do so many things, and you're probably not going to believe me that they work as powerful as they do. But then one day you will try them when you need them and they will convince you. And then you're going to write me an email and say I was right. I've had this. I just wrote a blog about this last week, I think last Sunday. And it was about cultured vegetables and how they have the power to help with food poisoning and stomach virus. And I had 3 or 4 testimonials on there of people that didn't believe me. And now they did because when they were in need, they happened to have a jar in their fridge and they tried it and it worked. And I love that part. I love that when I don't have to convince them, the food convinces them. But it won't convince you if you don't have them. So I'm going to show you how to make them really easy. It's super simple, guys. It's not hard. Just put it in your fridge. Even if you don't want to eat it right now, just put it in your fridge. Just do that for me, okay? Because one day you're going to need them. And you're going to remember it. And it's going to change your life. Okay, so let's get to the 7 reasons I eat cultured vegetables. The first reason is seasonal allergies. In the springtime, I always up my intake of cultured foods to help with seasonal allergies. And I started getting seasonal allergies like to pollen when I was 13 years old. And one of the things I learned about being allergic to pollen is that the immune system is overreacting to a substance that is harmless, such as pollen. And it produces antibodies and attacks the allergen. So your body's not supposed to do this. And usually it means that your immune system is struggling. You've got an overactive immune system and it's reacting to something that it shouldn't react to. And at the basis of that is something's going on that's going haywire in you. And I found that having cultured foods greatly reduced my seasonal allergies to the point where they completely went away. Now, if my immune system gets out of whack again, I'll get flare-ups of it if I'm not careful, depending on what's going on in my life, what I'm eating, what I'm doing. So I'm always careful around this time of year to watch what I eat to strengthen my immune system. And I do that through lots and lots of vitamin C that is naturally occurring in foods. Sometimes when you take a lot of vitamin C supplements, it can be hard on your kidneys. So I always like to try to get it through my foods. And cultured vegetables are loaded with vitamin C. See, vitamin C is water soluble, and that means your body doesn't store it. So like you get depleted of it rather quickly. And when you have allergies, your body uses huge amounts of vitamin C, like large amounts because your adrenals are needing it. They're struggling. They're trying to help you, and so they need extra vitamin C. So having some cultured vegetables that with other foods that are high in vitamin C, like oranges and strawberries and things like that, all throughout the day, helped my allergies to disappear. It was incredible. And I had to be careful. One thing I want to caution you about is to stay away from sugar because it drops your immune system by 75%. And it will make you flare up on your allergies. And I learned that. I wrote a whole article about that on my website at culturedfoodlife.com. Type in allergies, search that, and read about that because that is a huge thing. Diet is really big. Your immune system, and it kind of teaches you what your immune system likes and what it doesn't. And if you have seasonal allergies, it's a really good time to really test this theory because there were certain foods that worked really good for me and certain foods that would flare things up. And when I found that, it changed everything. I always put lemons and oranges in my water, and I had it throughout the day. And I had kefir and kombucha, cultured vegetables every day. I stayed away from sugar. I stayed away from anything processed. And boy, I sailed through seasonal allergy season now, because but I've learned which foods work and which don't, and it could be different for you. But cultured vegetables were fantastic if I have any kind of allergic symptom. The juice or a few spoonfuls can really make a world of difference, and I'm going to explain more about that on some of these other topics. Okay, number 2, it's the safest and best food method to preserve your vegetables. Culturing your food is the safest and best food method to preserve vegetables. For thousands of years before there was refrigeration, it was the process of fermentation that made it possible the safe storage of food, because they didn't have a way to keep it safe. And so they fermented a lot of their food. The good microbes in cultured foods become so strong and dominant that they keep the pathogens and bad bacteria out. And I think it was designed this way because they've been doing this for so long. I believe that bacteria is the most dominant organism on this planet, and it's the most dominant organism inside of us because we're more bacteria than we are cells in our body by 10 times. And so I believe that bacteria is here to help us. I mean, it can also harm us if we don't take care of it. But for the most part, 95% of your bacteria in your body, or 99% of your bacteria in your body, is keeping you well. And it helps you breathe. It helps you digest your food. It helps your cells communicate with one another. It helps with elimination. It helps so many processes in the body, hormones, everything. And I find it interesting that they used bacteria to keep their food safe for thousands of years before refrigeration. And, they would often bury their vegetables that they would culture or ferment in the ground to keep them safe and cool. And the U.S. Department of Agriculture Research had a biologist by the name of Fred Bright. And he said these words: properly fermented vegetables are actually safer than raw vegetables, which may have been exposed to pathogens like E. coli on the farm. With fermented products, there is no safety concern, and I can flat out say that. The reason is that lactic acid bacteria that carry out the fermentation are the world's best killers of other bacteria. This is what Fred Bright said. He also worked at the North Carolina State University, where scientists have been studying fermentation and other pickled foods since the 1930s, so he's a very big authority. Bright also added that fermented vegetables for which there are no documented cases of foodborne illness are safer for novice to make than canned vegetables, because pressurized canning creates an anaerobic environment that increases the risk of deadly botulism, particularly with low acid foods. And let me explain how that works, okay? Because this is super cool, okay? The only way you can get botulism in food is to heat the food, and that kills off all the other bacteria. And the only one strong enough to survive is botulism. And then you have to can it and put it in an anaerobic environment. Well, you don't do any of those things when you're fermenting food. And so there's so much good bacteria in fermentation that botulism can't even get a foothold. It's a scientific impossibility for you to get botulism in your food because you're not heating it and you're not putting it in an anaerobic environment. So feel very assured that even if you're a beginner, that this is a very safe method of food preservation, and it's a very powerful one for you. Okay, number 3. Culturing your food adds vitamins and minerals. When you culture your cabbage into sauerkraut, the vitamin C and antioxidant levels go through the roof. And researchers at Cornell University tested levels of antioxidants and vitamin C in sauerkraut and found, for instance, in raw cabbage before it's been fermented was 57 milligrams per cup. But then they tested it when it was fermented and the levels were close to 700 milligrams. Okay, from 57 milligrams to 700 milligrams. That's how much vitamin C is in cultured vegetables. It's also an antioxidant that protects the body against stress and helps boost the immune system. And guys, if you are struggling with lowered immunity in your body in any way, shape, or form, whether it's allergies or, all different kinds of manners of, immune stress, you need more vitamin C in your diet because that is what your adrenals need. That's what your immune system relies on. And cultured vegetables are a wonderful source of vitamin C. Uh, for instance, collards and KLR2, they have the most vitamin C in them, but you can ferment pretty much any vegetable. But not only do you get more vitamin C when you culture them, the fermentation process also increases the nutrient availability in vegetables. And that is due to the good bacteria that helps you to digest and utilize your food. So let's say you have a spoonful of cultured vegetables with a sandwich. You're going to get more nutrients from that sandwich than you would have had you not had the cultured vegetables with it, because cultured vegetables are pre-digested. They're loaded with good bacteria, so that's going to break down the food that you eat with it and help you to get more nutrients from your food. And I saw that across the board with my daughter many years ago when we first started eating cultured foods. She had severe food allergies. She had irritable bowel syndrome. She had all these problems when she ate. She got stomach pain. But if I gave her cultured food at every meal, she did fantastic. And she got better. And then within a year, she wasn't allergic to the foods anymore. And there's a lot of science on that now that they've discovered that a lot of food allergies are caused by overuse of antibiotics and people missing certain bacteria in their gut. And when they replace those bacteria back into the gut, then the food allergies go away. And I see that over and over and over and over again in this line of work for the last 16 years. It's one of the most powerful things that cultured foods do, and that's helping with food allergies. Greatly encourage you to have a spoonful with lunch and dinner, or kefir at breakfast, or some kombucha. That's what we did, and boy, what a difference it made. And for so many people that I've helped, it's a powerful way to get well. Okay, number 4, culturing and eating cultured vegetables strengthens the good bacteria, kills harmful pathogens. And that is because there is a superstar bacteria in cultured vegetables called Lactobacillus plantarum. And it is extremely hardy. It survives the stomach acids with ease. And when you eat it, it can make the full trip from your mouth to your colon to colonize you in a powerful way, where probiotic supplements don't do that because they don't have that food transport. They tend to get in your stomach acids and then they die. But when you eat cultured vegetables, they survive that trip, and so they colonize you much easier. Lactobacillus plantarum is a welcome guest that works mightily for you. And it fiercely, and we're talking fiercely, attacks pathogenic bacteria, which is bad bacteria in our body, in a very powerful way. And it's so powerful. Well, we learned in the first one that it starves the bad bacteria, but it also can attack it. And it will strengthen your good bacteria by killing the bad guys, so the other bacteria will thrive too. And this helps you become stronger, and because the more good bacteria you have, guys, the stronger your body becomes. The more your cells can communicate with one another. I've seen this across the board with people who have things like fibromyalgia, problems with stomach, food allergies, stomach problems, gastrointestinal colitis. Once you have a lot of good bacteria, it seems to work on your behalf for you, so that, it's strengthening all the different parts of your body. And it's simply by, you strengthening your probiotic army that's inside of you. Now, it's one thing I need to tell you about, though, in cultured vegetables, the bacteria that's in here that's so powerful, and it does so much more than what I'm saying, but we only have so much time. It only lasts a few days in the body because it's a transient bacteria, so it doesn't attach to the mucosal lining and stay inside of you. So it's important to have it often because it's not going to last forever, and it does so many wonderful things. It's a fast way to get well. Okay, number 5. Having fermented vegetables removes pesticides. This is super cool. Okay, this is really exciting to me because the microbes will help remove pesticides from our vegetables. And it does it in a very powerful way. It's, I always thought it was pretty much of a hardship for people to buy organic all the time. And not everybody can afford it. I think it's good that we do it. But if we can't afford it, the cool thing is that the Lactobacillus plantarum can remedy this. Even if your vegetables aren't organic, they remove the pesticides from non-organic vegetables. And this particular bacterial strain was studied in the fermented vegetables called kimchi. And it was found to be capable of degrading 4 different insecticides by using them as a source of carbon and phosphorus. So basically, the bacteria was eating some of these pesticides and insecticides as a food source. So it was removing it from the cultured vegetables. And I've seen this I've seen a lot of studies on this now. I think Dr. Mercola had his tested. He tested his cultured vegetables in a lab and found that it was 99.9% were removed after 7 days of insecticides, pesticides, chemicals, and things like that were removed from his cultured vegetables. And then I saw another person who had theirs tested. It was astounding to me because I didn't know it could do that. But that's a powerful thing for people who can't afford organic, to know that not only does it remove this from the vegetables, but when you eat it, it helps remove some of these things from you. And we're going to learn more about that, which is a powerful tool to have in your life, to have something that will help you, because we're inundated with all kinds of chemicals and in our everyday life. And having these mighty bacteria inside of us not only does it in our food, but does it inside of our bodies. Now, number 6 is stomach distress of any kind. And I love this. And I just wrote an article about this this last Sunday that you might want to check out on food poisoning and stomach viruses. And this is the thing that I noticed that helped me the most when I first made my first jar of cultured vegetables. It was in the very beginning, it was 16 years ago. I made a jar. I stuck them in the back of my fridge and I forgot about them. I didn't even eat them. And it was maybe a couple weeks later that we got food poisoning at a restaurant from some artichoke dip. It was my husband and I and my daughter. We were all pretty sick. And it was bad. I was deliriously sick. And I was dreaming. I was kind of sleeping and then I was kind of waking up. And I was dreaming about chickens, of all things. Don't ask me why I was dreaming about chickens. But I was laying in bed thinking about it, and I thought, I had read an article earlier that week about the bird flu, and they had given these chickens kimchi, and they found that it killed the bird flu in the chickens. So I dragged myself to the kitchen, hanging onto the sides of the wall. I could barely walk, and I found that jar that was in the back of the fridge. I opened the jar, I swigged it with, I didn't even go get a spoon because I was so sick. I didn't want to go across the kitchen to find a spoon. I put it back in the fridge, and I went back to bed. And I kid you not, 20 minutes later, I was up doing dishes, and I was just astounded. It made me a believer. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that something could work that effectively that quickly. And time again, I have had so many people tell me this. And I put 3 or 4 of these testimonials on my blog this week, so you have to check it out and read their stories. And I love it because there is not much on the market that can help you when you get food poisoning or when you get a stomach virus. And I have seen this happen time and time again. If you're throwing up, if you've got diarrhea, if you've got any kind of gastrointestinal, bug, this stuff works, and it works fast. But it won't help you if you don't have a jar in your fridge. And then you're going to write me a letter and tell me about it. And I'm going to love that part because most of the time people don't believe me. They don't think this really works. And then I just get flooded with emails and people go, okay, I'm a believer now. So just have a jar in your fridge. At least do that for me, okay? Because when you need it, it will be there for you. Okay, number 7. This is a very cool one too. Cancer prevention. In 2005, a team of researchers in Poland and in the United States studied 2 groups of young Polish women. One group had immigrated to the United States and one had not. They found the rates of breast cancer were 3 times higher for those in the U.S. than those who were still living in Poland. Further studies concluded that the consumption of cultured sauerkraut was a possible factor in the differing rates of cancer. Women in Poland ate an average of 30 pounds of cultured sauerkraut, while the women in the U.S. ate way less than 10 pounds per year. So why does this matter? Because sauerkraut contains high levels of a very special compound which has been shown to have anti-cancer activity in laboratory research. And several other research studies have focused on the estrogen metabolism and the enzyme in sauerkraut and its juices. And in 2012, a study conducted by Hanna Savas and her colleagues looked at the ability of the enzymes in cabbage and sauerkraut to change the expression of the P450 enzyme. And that enzyme metabolizes estrogen, but it's also a carcinogenic. And what they found was that there were special things in cabbage that was reducing all of this and lowering breast cancer rates. And so there, all of this research supported the idea that the consumption of sauerkraut was a really powerful, beneficial food for the prevention of breast cancer in women. And they've gone on to do even more research and are finding more of the same. And that is so exciting to me, guys, because, it's just food. It's just a food that you put in your fridge. But food can be powerful medicine. And it's so crazy easy to make. Let me explain to you a really easy way to do this, okay? So you're just going to go get a jar. It can be a quart, it can be a half gallon, it can be a gallon jar, a glass jar with a lid, okay? You're going to cut up some cabbage, and you can cut up and you can shred it. You can use a food processor. You can chop it. You can do whatever you want. Chop it all up. You can shred up or chop up an apple and put it in there because it'll give it more flavor. I've got lots of recipes where you can add other ingredients, but just that simple. You can just do cabbage. And then you're going to add some salt. If you're doing a gallon, you need at least a tablespoon of salt, but you need salt with minerals because minerals are really important to fermentation, but they're also important to our body. You can use regular table salt if that's all you have, but it's better to get salt with minerals. And if you don't add the salt, your vegetables are going to be mushy and slimy, and they won't culture as well. So you need the salt keeps them crunchy, so you're going to want that. And you're going to toss the salt in the cabbage, and you're going to place in the jar. Now, you can add a starter culture. I have a cutting-edge starter culture, which I love. Or you can add more salt, which would be another tablespoon or two. If you're not going to use a culture, you need to add more salt to drop the pH and keep it safe. Or you can use kefir whey. You can do one of those three things, and you're going to add that to the jar. And if you're adding kefir whey, and it's a gallon jar, you're going to use a cup. If it's half gallon, you're going to use a half a cup. And if it's a quart, you're going to use a fourth of a cup. And the starter culture has instructions on the box, but you're going to submerge all those vegetables. You're going to cover them in water so that the tops of them are all covered in water, and you're going to put a lid on it. You're going to let it sit on your counter for 6 days. And after that 6 days, taste it. If it's tart and sour like kraut, then you put it in the fridge. It's going to last 9 months. And that's how you make cultured vegetables. I have 78 cultured vegetable recipes on my website. I have bunches in all 3 of my books. Everything is there for you. You can go right to my website and find it easily. It's free. I've got it there I even got videos. So it's super easy. I just want you to make a jar. And I got 3 different ways, 3 different cultures you can do. I don't care how you do it. I just want you to do it because someday you're going to need those vegetables and they're going to be in your fridge, and it's going to change your life because you're going to understand the power that food can have on your body. And then you're going to tell everybody. It's going to be awesome. So I love cultured vegetables. You don't need a lot. Just a spoonful or some of the juice is enough. But I just want you to make a jar or buy one. You can even buy some in the refrigerated sections at the health food store. The homemade's much stronger, but I don't care how you do it. Just do it. Because cultured vegetables have changed my life again and again and again. They help my daughter with her food allergies and with her IBS. They've helped me with so many things. I need to do a whole other podcast about it. And I just want you to be well. I want you to feel what I do because it's so fun to feel good. I was in New York last weekend doing a class, and I was walking all over New York, and my son was laughing at me because I said, I love going to New York because everybody walks fast. And he goes, Mom, you're passing everybody. He goes, they don't walk fast. You walk fast. And I love that rhythm. I love that I feel so good that I can pass everybody in New York. I think I gave my son shin splints because we walk so much, but I love it because I feel good. And I love doing classes. I love seeing your faces. I love talking to you. I love hearing the story. A woman came to my class this weekend in New York, and she was telling me that her husband had all these food allergies and now they're all gone. And it's made him a believer. Another guy got rid of his acid reflux. Somebody else, fibromyalgia got better. And this is an everyday thing for me, hearing from people and hearing their success stories. And if you want to read them, go to my Life's Touch page on culturedfoodlife.com. But here's the deal. I want you to be one of those success stories because it is life-changing to feel good. I do these podcasts, I write these blogs and books and everything. I really hope it changes your life. I wish somebody had done this for me. When I was starting this whole journey, I was all alone. I didn't have anybody to look to. I was trying to figure it all out by myself, and this is what I would have wanted. I would have wanted some crazy woman that lays in bed at night and thinks of the names of the bacteria in her cultured vegetables, and then I would want her to tell me why. And I would want her to inspire me. And so that's what I'm doing. I'm here to inspire you. I'm here to uplift you. I am your brother and sister, and we are all in this together. So let's help one another and let's get you better. So you got to make a jar of cultured vegetables. Head on over to Cultured Food Life. Click the recipe tab. If you got questions, we've got a staff that can help you. And let's get you well. Life is too much fun to feel bad. You just don't know what you're feeling if you don't feel good. I hope this helps you, and I hope you tune in next week. Thanks, guys, for listening. Have a great week, and make some cultured vegetables.